Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 9. So we are officially now into the back half of the final season of The Flash, of course that being Season 9, and we know we have some, pretty big things coming in these final episodes, whether it be in something like Episode 9, which will feature Oliver Queen and, other company returning for one final time, or at least we'd assume one final time. Maybe another episode later on, I don't know, but at least in that episode, we're going to assume that's the case. And then, of course, we have the big finale storyline with Cobalt Blue and many returning, mainly villainous faces towards the end of that, which are going to include, be playing out in, we know the series finale, but maybe even like an episode or two beforehand. We'll have to wait and see. Now, one of these big confirmed returns that many have wanted for years and years to come back is that, of course, of Zoom, played by Teddy Sears. Now, this is one of the big announcements because of the hopefulness, if you want to put it, that people had that he would be coming back at some point, and he's coming back right at the end to finish that final storyline, which is probably for the best. And in an interview with TV Line, which will have bits and pieces released over the next short period of time, whatever that might be, they didn't really clarify. But Grant Gustin, who of course plays Barry Allen or The Flash, talked about Teddy Sears coming back as Zoom, but also some disappointing news in regards to something that could not happen that was planned and was scrapped due to something that happened to Grant while filming the series finale, a few weeks ago from now. But yeah, we are just going to read over TV Line's piece, or at least most of it, that contains all the information, because that's the best way to do it. And then we'll talk about it, because he doesn't really exactly explain what certain things mean, but we can assume sort of what he means by, especially one thing. A lot of people think he's talking about this one character that we've seen previously, but we'll get to that point, or we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But yeah, this is what was said in TV Line's piece. Grant Gustin stopped by TV Line's New York office on Tuesday to talk up the remainder of The Flash's final season, as well as reflect on his 184 episode run as Barry Allen. During the course of our upcoming in-depth video Q&A, when asked about the slew of encores on tap for the Arrowverse series farewell run, Gustin revealed that one reunion between him and series alum Teddy Sears, who reprises his role of Zoom, had to get reworked. Teddy is one of my favorite people, and his work in one of the final episodes I didn't get to be a part of, Gustin lamented, though I was originally supposed to. I dodged COVID for 3 years, Gustin continued, and got it 6 days before we were supposed to wrap the final season. With The Flash's frontman sidelined, we had to readjust story and readjust production. As a result, Gustin wound up not getting to share time with Sears' Zoom. There was one scene we were supposed to be in together. Well, I won't say specifically who, but I was playing a different character in a scene with Teddy playing Zoom, Gustin explained, and that was one of the casualties of production changing. Yet, despite Gustin's unavailability, the Zoom and whomever scene was salvaged, albeit in a slightly different form. They didn't double me, Gustin said. Instead, they ended up having to conceptually change it up a bit. So that's the last bit of that piece of the interview. As I said, they did an in-depth Q&A, and they sort of said in this article that they're going to split it up, I guess, when it comes to certain topics. So I don't know when the full thing's coming out, if it's just before the finale in just under 2 months from now, or in the next couple of weeks. I'm not too sure, but I guess if there's anything of interest that comes from this that's worth talking about, we'll bring it up again. Now, in regards to what Grant is saying here, what was the thing that was planned that couldn't end up happening? Now, he doesn't say who it was. He sort of avoids that, and he says he was playing a different character. He doesn't want to specifically say who it was, but most people think is that Savitar was the thing that couldn't happen. Now, we know that the physical suit of Savitar is in this series finale, but everyone was like, are we going to see the old pizza face Barry? So is this what Grant Gustin is talking about here? Is it pizza face Barry that he was meant to be playing in this scene with Zoom? That would make sense considering the other things happening in this series finale. Some people might make the excuse maybe Grant faked COVID so he didn't have to put on the pizza face makeup again. I don't know. Maybe that's what he did. I highly doubt it though, but I don't know. There's a conspiracy theory. Now, the cool thing that this might suggest is that the villains are actually going to be working together properly throughout the episode, if not maybe even the episode beforehand as well, not just randomly showing up in that final fight scene all at once, like could potentially happen and has happened in other shows and series in the past. You just have these villains showing up just for the sake of it, and some people assume that was actually going to be the case when we saw the set photos. But based off this, it does seem that there might be at least some sort of strategy and other scenes with these villains, or at least some of the villains, before leading into like the big battle with Team Flash versus like team villains, if you want to put it. So that's a good sign, I guess, though it doesn't confirm it necessarily through what's being said here, but definitely does suggest it. Now, TV Line does say that this means that Grant does not share any screen time with Teddy Sears as Zoom, but that's not what Grant is quoted saying here. He just says that this particular scene with this mystery character, which we assume now, as we said before, is Savitar, couldn't happen. Now, obviously, maybe Grant clarified and said, yeah, I don't share anything, but there's no quote from him saying that. So I would assume going into it that maybe he doesn't share any scenes with Zoom or Teddy Sears specifically, but it's not said here that that's the case. So just keep that in the back of your head or in the back of your mind going into the finale and this final portion of the show, because he doesn't necessarily say that. Because it would be weird if it was his only scene with at least Teddy Sears' Zoom is him as Savitar Barry. Surely there'd be a Flash and Zoom face off. You'd have to think. But then again, maybe if, you know, Grant is the Flash facing Zoom, maybe it's the stunt double in the Zoom suit, which was the case a lot in season 2 as well. So I don't know, but then again, we know from some set photos that Teddy wears the Zoom suit with, like, you know, the black makeup around his mouth and eyes to make it, you know, the whole face sort of like, you know, blend in with the suit. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But I think he's just saying here that he didn't get to do the Savitar thing, but he shares other scenes. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, as I said. Now, in regards to how the scene was salvaged after Grant wasn't able to do it, how was it salvaged? They said conceptually, which makes me think maybe they just used the Savitar suit, because it's meant to be, I guess, Savitar talking to Zoom. So they went, okay, we can't use Grant as like Savitar out of the suit, so maybe we just have Savitar show up in the suit, and maybe that's where the conversation happens. Now, whether that's a CGI version or the physical one's another question. As I said before, we know the physical suit was on set for the finale, but maybe in this scene in particular, it wasn't really practical to have the physical suit in the area that they filmed it in. Maybe it was in a smaller room, so it was just weird and a bit harder to get the suit in there. So maybe they used the CGI version. Like, it's important to remember, even when like they had the physical suit come into the show in season 3, in the back half of season 3, they still sometimes use the CGI one for certain shots if it was better off using it. But yeah, whatever this scene was intended to do will still happen, just not in the way that it was originally envisioned. But it seems like it is maybe the villains either teaming up or at least having some sort of conversation about, you know, how to go about things. But obviously, it's very important to remember that most of these villains are dead, so I wonder how this is all going to work. I'm very curious. Now, on Grant being sick, we knew, and I've said this before in other videos, that he was not on set for that big lineup of all the villains and Team Flash facing off against them that was well known to the public. We all saw the set photos, I'm sure we did. And they actually just had Grant's stunt double at this in that scene instead, which makes me think that like maybe they went back and did some close-ups with Grant on like a green screen to slot in there if they needed to have him, you know, say anything or do a close-up or anything like that. But apparently he was actually filming on that same day, and he sort of alludes to it when talking about other scenes and stuff in that interview, where because he had COVID, they had to like readjust production and stuff and what he was doing, and he had to do some catching up. So I heard he was actually filming on that same day that was all happening, but doing another scene somewhere else in the city because they were running out of time. Like, he had to do this, and like it had to specifically be him doing this other scene. I don't know specifically what it was, but I just heard he was filming at the exact same time. So yeah, he was just catching up on stuff that was moved around due to him being sick, or at least having COVID, because I guess you can have COVID without actually feeling sick. But anyway, you know what I mean. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the concern that people have over the Hall of Fame villains, if you want to call them. Like, we have Savitar coming back, we have Zoom, we have Reverse Flash, obviously Cobble Blue's there. I guess Godspeed wouldn't go down as a Hall of Fame villain, but Godspeed's also there. At least he's, you know, the speedster villains. The speedster villains of the past are coming in. There is some concern over how they're going to handle them in this finale. And I think it's quite obvious, I don't think this should be too much of a shock saying it, that they will be nerfed in some regards so that Barry, and I guess more specifically Team Flash, have a chance to beat them. Like, I don't think anyone expects like how Allegra, Cecile, or Chillblaine would be able to really compete with these speedsters, especially someone like Zoom or Savitar. Like, really? So of course they're going to be nerfed in some way, but it's probably just more how that is handled as a whole that is the concern. I can understand it. I'm slightly worried. I'm worried in general when there's a villain and like they do some really amazing stuff or deadly stuff earlier on and they're defeated in a quite easy way. It's always concerning, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that's handled. There was nothing really from set that gave anything away in regards to how that is handled, so yeah, we're on the dark in regards to that, but fingers crossed it's done at least decently well. As I said, shouldn't shock anyone if they get nerfed, but as I said, it's just more how that's handled. Because it's fine nerfing, it's just more if it's sort of ridiculous when it's actually, you know, done and dusted and we actually get to see it. But yeah, overall, obviously, I think we're all stoked to see Zoom come back. It's a bit disappointing that everything that was planned, especially if it was going to be this Savitar Zoom thing, which people have wanted. That's like a team up people have wanted, Savitar and Zoom, especially if you got to see like Pizza Face Barry talking to Hunter Zolomon stuff. People wanted to see that, so it's being taken away, but still being worked in a way that I guess still achieves the same outcome, if that makes sense. But it's disappointing that COVID still, like 3 years later, is still messing with things like this. So it's a bit annoying, but what are you going to do? But yeah, so hopefully, you know, all the Zoom stuff plays out well, and just fingers crossed that Grant and Teddy did actually get to still share a scene, and maybe TV Line was just jumping the gun and just assuming that Grant meant they didn't get to film. Because as I said, Grant, there's no quote from Grant actually saying that, just this particular scene couldn't happen. So fingers crossed they actually got to film, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on all the stuff we went over in this video. Are you looking forward to some of these like villainous, you know, scenes in the finale? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.